Have you ever found yourself agreeing to something you initially resisted? Or perhaps, after a simple conversation, you walked away feeling confused, doubting your own perspective. In a world where interactions weave the fabric of daily life, subtle manipulations often slip under our radar, guiding our thoughts and actions without our awareness. These influences don't always come from sinister strangers. They might even originate from those closest to us or larger societal structures, like the media and social networks. But is there a way to recognize this hidden web of manipulation and defend yourself? Stoicism, a philosophy that champions resilience, rationality, and self-mastery, offers us practical tools to reclaim our autonomy. Drawing on Stoic principles, today we'll uncover the most insidious forms of manipulation and, more importantly, learn how to shield ourselves from their effects. The lessons shared here will not only reveal the tactics often used to sway our emotions and perceptions, but will also equip you with Stoic strategies to strengthen your inner defenses. Each lesson brings us closer to understanding these influences, enabling us to reclaim the freedom to act in alignment with our own values. Join me on this journey of discovery, and let's begin by examining one of the most common and covert manipulative techniques: emotional manipulation. 1. Emotional manipulation. Recognize and guard your emotions. In life, emotional manipulation is like an invisible chess game where the players are not merely people, but emotions themselves. The manipulator's aim? To move these pieces on the board of your mind to their advantage, often subtly and sometimes under the guise of care or concern. Imagine walking through a dense forest where each tree is an emotion: joy, fear, guilt. Someone seeking control can shake these trees, causing emotions to cloud your mind, leaving you vulnerable to their influence. Have you ever felt a pang of guilt after refusing a request, as if you owed something more to the other person? Or maybe you experienced fear, subtly suggested, making you question the consequences of standing firm in your decision. Emotional manipulation often begins with small gestures or words, seemingly harmless but carefully crafted to entangle you in a web of self-doubt and confusion. The Stoics would remind us that true strength lies in knowing our inner world well, in understanding our own emotional landscape. When we recognize our feelings as natural yet impermanent, they can no longer be used as tools against us. So, how can we defend against emotional manipulation? The first step, as the Stoics teach, is self-awareness. Take time each day to reflect on your emotions, understanding what stirs your happiness, your fears, your anger. Knowing the landscape of your mind is like being a skilled gardener, recognizing each plant and nurturing only those that serve your well-being. This awareness builds resilience against external influences, as we can better discern when others are attempting to manipulate us. Next, establish clear boundaries. Imagine your mind as a well-tended garden. You decide who can enter and influence this space. Saying no without guilt becomes easier when you have clear boundaries. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that we are all capable of kindness, but we should not do so at the expense of our values or integrity. Learning to prioritize your needs and values is not selfish. It's a Stoic exercise in self-respect. Balance is also essential in relationships. A healthy relationship is like a dance where both partners move in harmony, respecting each other's pace and intentions. If you find yourself constantly adjusting to another person's rhythm, ask yourself, is this relationship balanced? Or am I being subtly led in a direction that doesn't serve me? The Stoic sage would encourage us to seek relationships that support our growth, not those that require us to shrink or bend to fit another's desires. Finally, honest communication serves as a powerful shield. When we clearly express our emotions and boundaries, we provide others with a chance to understand us better and to respect our limits. Confronting someone who is emotionally manipulative may feel uncomfortable, but often a simple, "I feel this way," or "I'm not comfortable with that," can redirect the dynamic. Remember, a Stoic does not shy away from truth, even when it feels daunting. Emotional manipulation, when seen through the lens of Stoicism, becomes less of a mystery. By cultivating self-awareness, establishing boundaries, balancing our relationships, and practicing clear communication, we strengthen our defense against this tactic. As you internalize these practices, you will notice a greater sense of autonomy in your interactions. Now, let us delve into the next lesson, where we address another subtle form of influence: group pressure. 2. Awareness of group pressure. Stand firm in your own values. In our pursuit of inner peace, group pressure can be a formidable obstacle. As humans, we naturally yearn for connection, to belong within the circles we inhabit. But at what cost do we allow the opinions and actions of others to steer us away from our own values? In the philosophy of Stoicism, individuality and self-reliance are central virtues, empowering us to be mindful of when the opinions of others begin to eclipse our own beliefs and desires. Have you ever adjusted your behavior, even your opinions, just to align with the group? Perhaps you've been swept into agreeing with an idea or dressing a certain way, simply to avoid standing out. Group pressure, when left unchecked, can slowly wear down our autonomy, blurring the lines between who we are and who we feel we ought to be. The Stoics understood the power of these social influences, and they taught that it's essential to remain anchored in one's own principles, regardless of external expectations. So how can we stand firm amidst group pressure? The first Stoic principle here is self-knowledge. To stand against the sway of others, we must know where we stand. Take time to understand your own beliefs and values. This self-reflection acts as an anchor in the choppy seas of public opinion. When you are confident in what you value, the winds of social influence lose their power to knock you off course. The second step is to learn the signs of subtle group pressure. Sometimes, this influence is obvious. Someone might directly ask you to conform. Other times, it is subtle, a quiet undercurrent in conversations, or a feeling of discomfort if you disagree with the prevailing view. If you sense this tension, take a moment to ask yourself, is this action or opinion really mine, or am I following it to please the group? Awareness of these dynamics helps us keep a clear mind amidst the subtle pull of conformity. Practice setting boundaries gently but firmly. The Stoics believed in kindness without sacrificing integrity. If pressured to agree or act in a way that feels incongruent with your beliefs, you don't need to be confrontational. A simple, respectful, "I see things differently," or "that doesn't resonate with me," often suffices. Remember, the purpose is not to reject others, but to protect your authenticity. Lastly, seek a community that respects individuality. Surrounding yourself with people who value diverse perspectives and encourage your growth is like finding a steady harbor amidst a turbulent sea. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus reminds us that we become like those with whom we associate. So choose companions who support your journey toward inner resilience. When group pressure seeks to influence you, Stoicism reminds you to stay centered, to be as a tree with deep roots. Even as the wind attempts to sway you, these roots, your knowledge of self, awareness of influences, and respectful boundaries, will keep you steady. With this grounded approach, we prepare ourselves for the next challenge: defending against gaslighting and the erosion of our personal reality. 3. Detecting and deflecting gaslighting. Trust your reality. Gaslighting, an insidious tactic of manipulation, makes us question our very reality. Imagine it as a game where someone tries to alter the world around you just enough to make you doubt your own perception. Stoicism, with its emphasis on self-trust and rationality, offers a shield against this unsettling form of control. By holding firmly to our sense of truth, we safeguard our minds against those who seek to distort it. Have you ever shared a memory or feeling only to have someone insist it didn't happen or that you're misremembering? Perhaps they dismiss your emotions as irrational or belittle your concerns. This can feel like walking through a maze of mirrors, each reflection distorted to make you question what is real. Gaslighting in this way serves to shake your confidence, leaving you dependent on someone else's version of reality. The Stoic approach, however, encourages us to hold fast to our reasoned judgments, trusting in our own perceptions. The first Stoic strategy to counter gaslighting is to trust your experiences. Your perception and memory are valid, even if someone else attempts to twist them. Marcus Aurelius reflected deeply on the importance of inner clarity, understanding that our sense of reality is ours alone to interpret. Maintain a journal, if needed, documenting your conversations and experiences. By keeping this written record, you create a point of reference, a reminder of your own truth. Second, lean on supportive voices outside of the manipulative relationship. Friends or family who validate your experiences serve as a valuable anchor. When we share our perspective with others, we gain clarity and affirmation, which shields us from the isolating effects of gaslighting. Next, practice self-care and reinforce your self-worth. The Stoic belief in the value of our individual perceptions means we have the right to trust ourselves. By practicing self-compassion, whether through meditation, exercise, or other self-affirming habits, we reinforce our mental strength and ability to stand firm in our own reality. This inner resilience is key to resisting the doubts gaslighting aims to instill. When faced with gaslighting, remember, your reality is valid. The Stoics would remind you that no one can control your mind unless you allow them to do so. By trusting yourself, surrounding yourself with supportive influences, and practicing self-care, you will navigate even the foggiest of mazes with your reality intact. From this foundation, we move forward, next examining another intellectual safeguard, the awareness of logical fallacies. 4. Beware of logical fallacies. Protect your reason. In the arena of ideas, manipulators often use logical fallacies as a tool to cloud reason, diverting conversations from truth to confusion. These fallacies are like mirages in a desert. They appear to offer something substantial, but ultimately vanish, leaving only confusion in their wake. Stoicism, which champions rational thought and clarity of mind, teaches us to recognize and reject these flawed arguments, keeping our path to truth clear and free from distractions. Have you ever engaged in a discussion only to feel that the conversation veered away from reason? Maybe you offered a viewpoint, and instead of responding to your idea, the other person attacked your character. Or perhaps, after hearing one personal story, someone generalized it to an entire group or population. These tactics, known as ad hominem attacks and hasty generalizations, are common fallacies that derail rational discussion. The Stoic mind seeks to stay clear of these manipulative traps, grounding itself in truth rather than rhetoric. First, educate yourself on common logical fallacies. Recognizing these errors is like holding a map that prevents you from getting lost in a desert of misinformation. Fallacies like ad hominem, slippery slope, and straw man arguments are frequent tactics manipulators use to shift focus away from facts. Ask yourself, is this argument based on evidence? Is it addressing the core issue or just a distraction? The more familiar you are with these fallacies, the easier it becomes to identify when someone is attempting to manipulate you. Develop critical thinking, a core tenet of Stoicism. Stoics like Epictetus and Seneca taught that our reason is our greatest asset in navigating life's complexities. Don't take everything you hear at face value. Question and analyze the arguments presented to you. Seek evidence behind the claims, just as a detective seeks clues to understand the truth. This approach keeps your mind engaged and less susceptible to manipulation. Be mindful in your own arguments as well. Stoicism reminds us that integrity and respect for truth are paramount, even in our own words. Avoid using these fallacies yourself, striving to engage with others through honest, reasoned arguments. If you maintain clarity in your discussions, you contribute to a more respectful and productive dialogue, and your words carry a sincerity that others will respect. When you detect logical fallacies in a discussion, think of them as red flags waving in the wind. Stay focused on reason, clarity, and truth. By recognizing and avoiding these traps, you guard your mind, protecting it from arguments that may shine like gold but are as insubstantial as air. And so, with the rational clarity of Stoicism as our guide, we now turn to another form of manipulation: blame shifting. 5. Recognizing blame shifting. Assert your responsibility boundaries. Blame shifting, a subtle yet powerful tactic, seeks to make you responsible for someone else's emotions or actions. Like a shadow slowly creeping over your conscience, blame can be cast upon you, distorting your sense of personal accountability. In Stoicism, we learn that while we must take responsibility for our actions, we are not responsible for the actions of others. This perspective allows us to discern when blame is an attempt to control, rather than a fair judgment. Have you ever felt that someone was unfairly holding you accountable for something outside of your control? Perhaps they made you feel guilty, as if their emotions or actions were the result of your choices. "If only you had done this, I wouldn't feel this way," they might say. This tactic of shifting blame makes you doubt your boundaries, leaving you feeling perpetually responsible for the actions and emotions of others. Stoicism, however, teaches us to keep our boundaries firm, recognizing what is within our control and what is not. First, pause and practice self-reflection. When faced with blame, take a moment to ask yourself, is this truly my responsibility? The Stoic practice of self-examination helps clarify whether you are indeed responsible or if someone is unjustly shifting their burdens onto you. If you find that the blame is misplaced, remind yourself that you are not obligated to carry what does not belong to you. Second, assert your own reality. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the importance of personal perspective, of holding fast to one's own sense of truth. When someone tries to make you feel guilty for something beyond your control, respond with calm clarity. You might say, "I understand you're upset, but I don't accept responsibility for your actions." This assertion protects your mental space from unjust guilt, ensuring your emotions and energy remain balanced. Maintain supportive relationships that respect your autonomy. A positive environment filled with individuals who respect your boundaries acts as fertile ground where you can flourish. Surround yourself with those who encourage you to grow, rather than those who use blame as a means of control. In the words of Epictetus, it is essential to associate with those who will make a better person of you. Blame shifting is a tactic that challenges our sense of fairness and integrity. By discerning what belongs to us and what does not, we honor our boundaries and protect our inner peace. From here, we move to the next form of manipulation that, while seemingly positive, often hides ulterior motives: excessive flattery. 6. Excessive flattery. See beyond the compliments. Excessive flattery is a charm trap. Compliments, when genuine, are like fresh air, but when excessive, they become a honeyed cage of dependency and misplaced trust. Stoicism, which advocates a balanced view of oneself, reminds us to be cautious of praise that sounds too sweet or disproportionate, as it often carries hidden motives beneath the surface. Have you ever noticed someone showering you with compliments to the point where it felt insincere? They might praise every action or decision, even to the point of ignoring reality. Excessive flattery, like a drug, can make us crave more, leaving us susceptible to the flatterer's influence. Stoicism, however, teaches us to know ourselves well enough to recognize our strengths without needing validation from others, keeping our self-esteem rooted in truth rather than superficial praise. First, cultivate a realistic self-assessment. The Stoics taught that we must know ourselves, strengths and weaknesses alike, to avoid being misled by others' opinions. When we understand our own capabilities, we become resilient to outside influence. Compliments no longer sway us off course, for we have already acknowledged our merits and are equally aware of our limitations. Observe the context and frequency of compliments. When someone praises you excessively or every time they need something, take note. The Stoic approach here is to view these compliments with a discerning eye, recognizing when praise feels overdone or is perhaps motivated by ulterior motives. Think of it as carrying an umbrella on a sunny day. It may seem unnecessary, but it prepares you for sudden changes. Maintain emotional distance when compliments feel excessive. A simple "thank you" suffices, but don't let yourself become attached to the approval. Think of flattery as a sweet breeze. Appreciate it, but don't rely on it for comfort or self-worth. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that the praise of others is fleeting. What truly matters is our own inner measure of worth. Excessive flattery is indeed a subtle form of control, but by grounding yourself in self-knowledge and viewing compliments critically, you keep your mind clear and free from dependency. With this understanding, we now approach the next form of manipulation, one that targets our support systems: isolation. 7. Recognizing isolation tactics. Preserve your support network. Isolation tactics are among the most insidious forms of manipulation, severing you from the relationships that provide perspective, support, and balance. Stoicism teaches us that humans are social beings, interconnected with family, friends, and community, and to be separated from these bonds weakens us mentally and emotionally. By understanding and resisting isolation tactics, we protect our autonomy and remain anchored in reality. Have you ever noticed someone trying to distance you from friends or family, perhaps by casting doubts about their loyalty or value? Isolation often starts subtly, with a manipulator sowing seeds of distrust or encouraging you to depend on them alone. Imagine it as being placed on a deserted island where the only person you have to rely on is the very one who isolated you. Stoicism reminds us that a healthy, balanced life involves relationships that encourage us to grow, rather than those that close off our access to the outside world. First, pay attention to changes in your relationships. If you notice a shift where someone discourages you from spending time with friends or family, take it as a red flag. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of examining our interactions with others, ensuring they align with our values and well-being. The Stoic perspective encourages us to maintain connections with those who uplift us, rather than allow one person to monopolize our time and influence. Keep your communication channels open. Regularly reaching out to friends, family, and other support networks keeps you grounded and connected to diverse perspectives. Think of these connections as lifelines that keep you rooted in reality, offering clarity and support when someone attempts to cloud your mind with doubt. The Stoics believed that wisdom often comes through dialogue, so keeping relationships active is essential to avoid manipulation. Set and maintain clear boundaries. If someone tries to control who you spend time with or how often you communicate with others, assert your boundaries firmly yet calmly. Imagine your mind as a well-protected sanctuary where you decide who enters and who does not. By setting these boundaries, you prevent manipulators from isolating you and maintain control over your own relationships. Trust your instincts. If you sense that someone is influencing your relationships negatively, acknowledge this feeling. Our instincts often serve as an internal alert system, guiding us when something is amiss. Stoicism teaches us to trust our judgments, reinforcing our confidence in the face of subtle manipulation. Isolation tactics, though subtle, can be dismantled by remaining connected to your support systems, setting boundaries, and trusting your inner judgment. With these tools, you safeguard your relationships and preserve your autonomy. Let us now consider another tactic that often forces decisions under pressure: the ultimatum. 8. Alert to ultimatums. Assert freedom of choice. Ultimatums, by design, place us at a cliff's edge, making us feel cornered with limited choices. They are tools of pressure, coercing us to make decisions that we might otherwise avoid. The Stoics, however, remind us that in life, we are rarely as cornered as we may feel. Stoicism teaches us that our power lies in our responses and our freedom to choose, even when faced with difficult decisions. Have you ever been given an ultimatum, such as, "If you truly care about me, you'll do this," or "If you don't agree, I'm walking away"? Ultimatums often appear reasonable at first, yet beneath the surface, they limit your autonomy by forcing a binary decision. The Stoics encourage us to resist such manipulative tactics by grounding ourselves in reasoned thought and keeping a clear view of our values. First, take a moment to pause. When faced with an ultimatum, the initial response may be stress or panic. Yet, in most situations, we have more time than we think. Pause, breathe, and remember that you are not required to make a snap decision. Marcus Aurelius advised us to observe our reactions, understanding that our initial impulses are often not aligned with our deeper values. Use this pause to regain control over your response. Evaluate the consequences with clarity. Stoicism encourages us to consider both immediate and long-term effects of our choices. Ask yourself, will this decision align with my principles, or am I only acting out of pressure? This reflective approach allows you to see beyond the immediate consequences and to choose a path that serves your true interests rather than succumbing to manipulation. Communicate your feelings and boundaries. Expressing how the ultimatum affects you can neutralize the pressure. A simple statement like, "I feel uncomfortable with this approach," or "This decision requires more thought," can help you assert your independence. Stoicism values clear and honest communication, which not only protects your autonomy, but also helps others understand your position. If ultimatums are a pattern, reevaluate the relationship. A healthy relationship is built on mutual respect, not on threats or pressured decisions. If you find that ultimatums are frequent, it may be a sign that the relationship is more controlling than supportive. Epictetus taught that relationships should nourish our growth, not bind us in fear or coercion. By staying calm, evaluating consequences, and communicating boundaries, you retain control over your decisions, making choices that reflect your own values. Now that we understand how to counter ultimatums, let us examine a tactic that manipulates our sense of guilt: blame. 9. Recognizing blame. Assert responsibility boundaries. Blame, when used as a tool for control, can distort our sense of self-responsibility. Like a creeping shadow, blame can make us feel guilty, transferring responsibility onto our shoulders for matters that may not truly be ours to bear. Stoicism teaches us to take responsibility only for our own actions and reactions, while recognizing that we cannot control others' choices or emotions. Have you ever been told something like, "If you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have reacted this way"? Blame, in this form, seeks to make you responsible for someone else's behavior or feelings. This tactic can subtly shift the narrative, creating an atmosphere of self-doubt and guilt. Stoicism, however, teaches that each individual is accountable for their own actions, freeing us from the burden of misplaced blame. First, practice self-reflection before accepting blame. When someone tries to make you feel guilty, pause and ask yourself, "Is this truly my responsibility?" The Stoics emphasized the importance of clear self-reflection to understand what belongs to us and what does not. By examining the situation with a calm mind, you can recognize when blame is unjustly placed on your shoulders. Assert your own reality and boundaries, calmly and respectfully stating, "I understand you're upset, but I don't accept responsibility for your actions," allows you to maintain your mental boundaries. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that while he could control his own actions, others' reactions were beyond his influence. This approach keeps you grounded in your own reality, free from the weight of others' misdirected guilt. Foster supportive relationships. Surrounding yourself with people who respect your boundaries nurtures an environment where blame is not weaponized against you. In Stoicism, we are encouraged to build relationships with those who uplift and respect us, for it is in these healthy environments that we thrive without the burden of unjust blame. By recognizing and asserting responsibility boundaries, we free ourselves from the oppressive weight of blame. This strengthens our inner peace and keeps our conscience clear. From here, we move to our final lesson, tackling the overwhelming impact of information overload. 10. Awareness of information overload. Simplify to see clearly. Information overload in today's world is a common yet powerful form of manipulation. When inundated with data, details, and opinions, our capacity for clear thought becomes clouded, making it difficult to make sound decisions. Stoicism teaches us to simplify, to see through the fog, and to focus on what truly matters, keeping our minds free from the distractions of excess information. Have you ever felt bombarded by so much information that it became impossible to make a clear choice? Manipulators know that overwhelming you with details can leave you feeling lost, more likely to yield to their influence out of sheer confusion. Stoicism, with its emphasis on clarity and focus, offers techniques to cut through the chaos. First, recognize when you are overwhelmed. Awareness is the first step in managing information overload. Epictetus taught that external events are beyond our control, but we can choose how we respond to them. When you feel flooded with information, pause and take a moment to center yourself. This act of mindfulness restores calm and perspective. Simplify by breaking down complex information. Approach each piece of data separately, rather than trying to understand everything at once. Think of it as dismantling a puzzle piece by piece, rather than becoming overwhelmed by the entire picture. By breaking down information into manageable parts, you regain control and clarity, avoiding the manipulator's trap. Ask clarifying questions. If someone is deliberately overwhelming you with information, don't hesitate to ask for explanations or simplifications. Could you summarize the main point? Or, what's the core issue here? Can help reveal their intentions. This Stoic practice of questioning not only clarifies information, but also reduces the manipulator's ability to hide behind a smokescreen of complexity. Trust your instincts. If something feels overwhelming or unclear, listen to that feeling. Stoicism values the strength of intuition, recognizing that our inner sense often alerts us to hidden motives. By trusting your instincts, you can step back and seek a fresh perspective, maintaining autonomy over your decisions. Information overload may be a common tactic, but by simplifying, questioning, and trusting our instincts, we can make clear decisions in alignment with our values. Now, as we conclude our exploration of these 10 Stoic lessons, let us reflect on how we can integrate them into daily life. In this journey through 10 Stoic lessons, we have explored various forms of manipulation, from emotional tactics to logical fallacies, blame, isolation, and information overload. Each tactic reveals how some seek to influence our emotions, decisions, and perceptions. However, with Stoic wisdom, we can recognize these tactics and reclaim our autonomy. Let this knowledge become your shield, helping you navigate relationships, social pressures, and daily interactions with clarity and confidence. As Stoicism teaches, our true strength lies in self-awareness, resilience, and rationality. If you found value in this discussion, please like the video, share it with those who may benefit, and subscribe for more content on Stoicism and personal growth. I would love to hear your reflections in the comments. Have you encountered any of these tactics? How have you responded, and what strategies resonate with you? Together, we can build a community of wisdom, support, and resilience. Thank you, and remember, true freedom lies in mastering our own minds.